So the first thing I want to say is Creator Series is for fun, right? Don't lose sight of that. Now, before you jump down straight into the comment section and start spewing negativity, just chill, all right? I really enjoyed the race. I think most of the creators really enjoyed the most recent race, and I always really enjoy the racing. But I think some viewers sometimes just don't enjoy it for what it is. Creator Series isn't a serious competition. There is no prizes. The only thing on offer is bragging rights. That's it. There's no prizes. Think of it like an exhibition match, right? Yes, it's competitive. Yes, you want to win, but ultimately it's for fun and the results don't really matter. Everybody there is having fun. Obviously, the whole point of this clipbook is to have some debate and to review incident stuff. You guys are more than welcome to debate and express your opinion, all this stuff, but just chill a little bit on the negativity, all right? Right, let's get on with it. The other thing I want to address is that it's never my fault. Now, this is a common criticism labeled at me, and if it's regular, it must have some merit. Now, first of all, yes, sometimes it is my fault. It absolutely is, and I admit it at the time. What I don't do is make a big deal out of it. So what to look out for? If I'm saying sorry or whoopsie, generally speaking, that's something I've done a little bit wrong. That's me admitting fault to something minor. Maybe I've slightly blocked someone in quali. Maybe I've accidentally made a little bit of contact with somebody. Something that doesn't really matter, but I've accidentally done something a little bit wrong, right? Sorry, whoopsie, that's admitted fault. Another level is my bad, or that's on me, or something along those lines, right? That's when I've done something that is wrong, but ultimately doesn't need making up for. Like, for example, if I accidentally outbrake myself and tap into the back of somebody and push them deep. What I'll normally do in response to something like that is not overtake, right? Not take advantage of that situation, but I have done something wrong and I'm admitting fault, but there's no need to be dramatic about it and to be penalized or to let somebody back through or whatever. Like, it's just something that I've done that's a little bit wrong and it needs some slight rectifying, but nothing too dramatic. And then you've got something when I actually do something wrong, when it's 100% my fault. I'll normally say something like, that's 100% my fault, or that's on me, or whatever it may be. This obviously happened, we'll review it in a bit, on Safso in this race, when I literally let him back through, because in my mind, it was 100% on me. Now, generally speaking, live during the races, I tend to judge incidents quite well, in my opinion. It's not very often that afterwards I'll go, I was completely wrong on that, or like, you know, I've completely reversed my opinion. Normally I judge it right, and as far as I'm aware, every single incident during the Creator Series race, I judge them all correctly live. We'll get into some more deeper analysis in just a moment. But generally speaking, I get it quite right. Now, the reason for that is I drive consciously. I don't regularly smash into people and squeeze them off and spin somebody out. It doesn't happen very often because I drive purposefully and consciously. If I was having to admit mistakes and apologize 5 times a race, then I just shouldn't be driving like that in the first place. So you may not agree with some of my driving. The Vince incident is a fantastic example of that, where in my opinion, that was perfectly clean. Some other people agreed. I think the majority disagreed. That's absolutely fine. But in my mind, I'm sticking to my guns because I think that is clean. That's how I want to present myself. That's how I want to go racing. But obviously, sometimes you guys disagree, and that's absolutely fine. But it's not a mistake. I've not done something wrong in my mind. I've just driven the way I want to drive. If I'm having to apologize all the time, I'm driving wrongly, all right? A big thing, I think, of why I come across as never admitting fault. I generally don't dwell on the times I've made the mistake. What I would normally do, and we'll see this with the Crim later on, is go, yeah, so obviously that bit was on me, and then analyze the other bits that I'm unsure on. Normally that tends to be the other driver's actions. So what ends up happening is, something might be my fault. I go, yeah, that's on me, and then move on. And then I end up analysing the other part of the incidents for 5 minutes. Only 10% will be spent analysing my own fault, and 90% will be analysing quite often the lesser fault of other people. But because of that time offset, I think people then attribute that as me justifying it, me saying it's not my fault, etc. That isn't the case, because I've already said, yeah, like that was me, I went too deep, or I did this wrong, or I did that wrong, or I should have done this differently. That's all admitting fault. But I get it. Like I said, if it happens so often, it's such a regular criticism. It's clearly something that I'm doing wrong in the way I express myself, but I do admit fault. And hopefully this little segment has allowed you to understand how I admit fault, when I admit fault, and why it perhaps comes across that I don't admit fault all the time. But ultimately, yeah, it's not my fault most of the time, because otherwise I would drive differently. There's another part to it as well, that obviously I'm quite known for the Clipbook, right? I analyze incidents. I like to analyze people's actions, people's mistakes. So it seems hypocritical when I'm making my own mistakes, and I get it. Like, I do think that's part of it. People like to be like, oh, like, what are you doing? Like, you think you're so clean? Look at this. Oh, you think you're so good at judging distance? Why have you driven like this? Like, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Let's get on with the overtake. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something slightly different today. We're going to look at all of my overtakes today. Not going to analyze all them all in minute detail, spend 10 minutes on each one. But we're just going to look at all of them, right? Obviously, as we go through, we'll analyze the incidents I was involved with. And after that, we'll get onto some clips of some other drivers. Right, let's do it. It was a good launch off the grid. Obviously, having softs, most people didn't have softs. Scotty in particular struggling a little bit off the start there. Now I go super aggressive here. I just decided to go for it today. We end up actually, which I didn't necessarily realize at the time, we end up 4 wide. Look, we're 4 wide. But thankful to Grid Jokes here for leaving me just enough room to just sneak up the inside there. And I pinched it quite hard right here because I knew that we were quite a lot wide and we ended up coming through. So that was a beautiful start straight up from P7, P10 to P7. Honestly, I actually think this is quite a good example of potentially like, again, going back to the Vince incident, because that was such a divisive one from last week, it takes 2 to tango. No matter how clean your move is, if the defending driver wants to make it dirty, it will be dirty. So here, if Safso turns in, I'm sure we'd have a portion of the viewers right now thinking, oh, no, that's a bad move. Like, you know, like, I don't like it. It's not really overtaking opportunity. Have some patience, it's lap 1, like whatever they want to say, right? But obviously, as it is, we got it clearly stopped to the apex, and because he's given room, there's 0 contact. I do think if Safso turns in, then most people would say, yeah, actually, that was fair, but there probably would be 20 or 30% of the audience that would think, actually, that was on me for sending it. But it does take 2 to tango. We're right, super late, that actually a bit too late, a little bit in deep, but ultimately get the move done, and there we go, up to P6. So there's the overtake so far. So this is the first obviously controversial one. Now, on the exit here, first criticism that could be levied is about a bit of wheel dragging there, We'll get a better POV of that in just a bit. So put a pin in that for now. Then we've got obviously the point of turning. I'm obviously, I don't think in this case anyone can deny that I'm alongside enough. Look, I'm halfway up his inside. It's not F1, you don't need to be ahead at the apex, but I'm halfway up his inside. He's obviously had a very proximity error for a number of times. This isn't a late dive bomb. I'm there. I've got better tyres. I could have backed out. You could always back out, but I'm not going to back out at this point. But the key thing and the key reason this ended how it did is because Ben's actions is called the Ben Daily, right? I was expecting him to turn in on me. I was ready for it. And when you're ready for it, you can normally correct the oversteer quickly enough that the other guy ends up getting nerfed wide. And that is what happened. So we'll go frame by frame. He turns in there quite aggressively, as you can see. First contact on the turning point is about there. So very, very early in the corner, but you can see the angle of Ben's car. He's going to basically hit his apex if I wasn't there. I'm turning right because I'm obviously intending, if he leaves me room, to not hit him. But with the F1 game, when you're turning right like this and you get hit from the outside, your car slides. It's the defending car that slides. So that's exactly what happens. And this is why Ben does it, because he tends to get away with it. So as he hits me there, boom, by turning too aggressively, and also a bit of a wheel hook there, his rear wheel kind of pushed my front wheel, which also caused an additional slide. I then slide to the right. As I'm sliding to the right, I obviously have to correct my oversteer, but again, because I knew he was going to do this, I was ready for it. So I then turn right, catch the oversteer. If you look, I'm not even going like fully right. I'm only a little bit right. I'm still trying to keep it as clean as I can. A little bit left, and then obviously here we have quite a big slide. We have to correct it a little bit more. Quite a big snap of oversteer there, and then I end up turning quite heavily into him, which pushes both of us wide. But you can see here at this apex, he hasn't given enough room, despite the fact that this contact has pushed him a little bit wider than he naturally would have been. So I've then pushed him wide. Then there's more contact because I've drifted into him, so that's then caused another slide of my car, so I've had to catch another slide. Various bits of collision, all instigated by the fact that Ben turned in and didn't leave enough room. More contact there. I actually get a wing damage for it. More contact there, and here. He's eventually far enough away that we can get disconnected, and I can actually turn right, and he's no longer turning across me. There you go. So we're disconnected now, and I'm turning, as you can see, in the bottom right, left here. I'm turning hard right now, trying to leave as much room as I can. Turning right, turning right, turning right. And at this point, I say something like, oh, yeah, you know, that's what you get the bin, buddy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The reason I thoroughly enjoyed it is because it's entirely predictable. It's known as the Ben Daily for a reason. He does it all the time. Normally he gets away with it. This time he didn't, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. End up obviously out wide, but that's because of all the contact, and then I just get on my race, and obviously Ben is out. Unfortunate retire. I did say afterwards, after I'd stopped laughing, I did say he didn't deserve to retire from that. Obviously, he's a content creator. He's got lots of viewers. I wouldn't have wished for him to retire from this, but ultimately, it's been his own causing by turning in too aggressively to a car that's completely fairly there, and he DNFs. It's unfortunate DNF. I wouldn't have wished that upon him, but he plays silly games, and this time he finally won a silly prize. It's been a long time. A lot of times he's turned in on somebody that he has had nothing come back from it. Occasionally he has a little whoopsie. I don't know if he's ever DNF'd from it. So it was quite nice to finally have it come back to him. And I think maybe in the future, maybe he'll think twice. But one more thing to cover, which I mentioned before, the wheel hook. Now this was, I'd say the wheel hook was pretty 50-50. The racing line tends to go slightly right to then curve back to the left so you can get a better line. Ben's trying to take that normal racing line with the car alongside. I'm refusing to give in that, and we end up making a bit of contact. To be honest, if you watch POV, the wheel hook barely does anything. Here we go. Look at our exits. Before any contact, there. That's the... I mean, there's very little difference between our cars. There's a bit of wheel hook, but I honestly think that might be more lag than anything else. But look at our exit speeds. They are virtually identical. Virtually identical. It does basically nothing. Yes, I'd say this contact was pretty 50-50, but it doesn't really affect anything at this point. I was always, even if we didn't wheel hook, I was always going to still be alongside. It's a bit of a nothing burger. It's probably 50-50, but it also means nothing. So that's the bad incident. Expecting one to back out when it's soft first start is unreasonable. I don't think anyone should be expected to back out in this situation. I think it's Creator Series. I think it's fun to stay alongside. I don't think Ben should have expected me to back out. I wasn't expecting Ben to back out. Let's just keep it clean and go side by side. Actually, this is actually a good example of one that I call my fault that doesn't really matter. Listen to what I say here. Sorry, that was all me. Sorry. No harm done. I just get my warning. I don't admit fault, apparently. Here we go. So now this one is another one that's 100% on me. We've got two in one lap. Another one I admitted as well. So Safso here on the better tyres goes around the outside beautifully. I leave him just enough room. And here, I understeer into him. Now that, obviously, I called it at the time, I called it correctly at the time, is 100% on me, and I even let him go despite the fact it cost me 2 positions rather than 1. Because here, he fairly goes him outside. I'm trying to send it here to discourage him from going for it, but I just can't quite, unfortunately, not squeeze him out, but he stays there. He doesn't back out, so I leave him the room on the exit. And here, when wheel to wheel going to this one, I just misjudge it slightly, and boom, little bit of contact there, pushes him wide, costs him a position, and I give it up. 100% on me. There's no real mitigating circumstances at all to this one. Often, it's quite rare that it's like 100% someone's fault, and then there's no mitigating circumstances. Normally you go, that was on me, but this driver could have done this thing differently. There is nothing like that in this, which is why I gave it back. There is 0% on Razin because, Safso, because he leaves the room. He leaves perfect amount of room. I've got 0 complaints about the room he left. In fact, he judged it perfectly. And then he goes on outside, and just by the fact he's got better grip, he's able to hold to pinch slightly. I'm understeering because I'm on hards, and we meet in the middle. But it's on me. You can see I accelerate that. I do relift to try and get it right, but I almost judge it there, but a little bit of basically a wheel hook there ends up kind of bouncing us both wide. 100% on me. I said at the time, I gave it back, and that's it. There is no mitigating circumstance on this. 100% my bad. Safso lost out from it, so I gave it up, even though it also cost me a position to Ricky because that one was 100% on me. No mitigating circumstances. There we go. I let Ricky go, and then I ultimately let Safso go eventually. There he goes. Vince's fault. Yeah, agreed. There we go. Knowing he's got wing damage. Send up the inside. Get it all stopped at the apex. He leaves the room. I leave him on the exit as well because he's still alongside. And that's it. Move done. He gets a bit of a switchback on me there, but that was never really going to work with his wing damage. Ryan lets me through as well. Job done. Concept. Here we go with no DRS. He does go defensive this time, so I send him around the outside. Very nice and late. Leave him some room. Bit of contact there, but I think that was him drifting a little bit wide. Doesn't really matter. I got moved on anyway. Now this is an interesting one here because these guys sort of play a little bit of games here into turn 1. They basically decide to collectively try and defend me, which was interesting. Here we go. So kind of half defensive there from Safso, but I'm slightly up his inside. But then Fabio here decides to block me off. I go for maybe the gap there, but then Safso comes over. This is not a gap. So I break there, no contact, and then decide to send him on the outside. Now I'm a bit annoyed he didn't pull this off. This would have been an amazing clip to pull this off. So just judged it there. Round the outside. Safso, though, just goes a little bit deep, locks his brakes, slides, so end up being a bit of contact. We're out super wide here. I'm thinking, is he not going to give me room? Safso is normally very, very fair. He will always give room when there's a red proximity arrow. He does ultimately give me room. I actually end up sliding into him there and giving myself some damage, which wasn't ideal. He does ultimately end up giving me room, though, so I was correct in my judgment of Safso. So this one was actually dodgy. In my opinion, if Safso turns in on me here, this is on me. Because I kind of go for it, but it's similar to the Vince incident from a couple of races ago, from last race. I kind of half go for it. Which Staff's so very kind to me here. He probably does get red proximity arrow because it's on the inside. Even though he does get red proximity arrow along the inside. I'm basically hoping for him to jump out of the way here. That was very much a chance move. We get away with it because he does ultimately leave the room. But that, in my opinion, would have been on me if he does turn in. He runs a little bit deep there, puts me in the gravel, but no harm done. I'm still up the inside. Now we've got a better grip here. Leave the room on the apex. Tiny bit of contact there as he again slides wide, trying to defend it, but with very walled tires, and then we get the move done. He pits his lap. Then on Fabio, I was considering the same move, but what I thought I could do was make Fabio defend, which did actually work. So I know Fabio don't like to take things lying down, so he defends. As soon as he hits the brakes, I know he's going deep. I get the switch back. Much better grip. Move done. Nice and simple. Does defend. I'll try it on the outside, brake much later. Just go a little bit deep. There's just not much grip on the outside. There's just not much grip, so ultimately I have to back out of that one. But we know how he's going to defend the inside very aggressively, so we go for the outside, but we also know from the last lap we can outbrake him, so we do. There, what I try and do here is I try and not only brake a little bit later, because I saw I got it stopped in the previous lap relatively comfortably, but also try and like pinch it inside as much as I can to steal a little bit of that dry line while ultimately leaving him room. So there, braking late, but just, I wondered if I got a wheel on the grass here or something. There, look, you see how I go right to the very, very outside. There. Is my rear wheel on the grass there? It may well be. It may well be. But anyway, ultimately, what really happens is I just brake a little bit too late, and I'm just being ambitious. I'm just absolutely going for this. He's not going to give me the inside line. It's very hard to overtake on this track at the best of times, let alone in the wet. So I absolutely go for on the outside. The white line isn't more slippy in the F1 game, so that's not a thing. I actually basically have two slides here. Huge slide there. Gather it up now, but you see on the bottom here, I'm already back on the throttle. The very second that I gather it up, I'm back on the throttle in second gear because I know that Crim is so close behind. I'm thinking, okay, I've gathered it up. Let's get on with it. Let's stop let's stop Crim overtaking. But ultimately, that just caused a secondary slide. Thankfully, I gathered that up before I spin across Crim's front wing. And Crim makes a little mistake here with the dirty air. He's gone deep. I've got clean air, so I'm thinking, okay, up the inside of the next corner, but just can't quite get there. So then Crim goes defensive. I can see he's going defensive, so I think, all right, get the dry line on the outside. Go for the switch back here. Doesn't quite work out. We're both trying to get out of the power. A little bit of contact there, but I don't, in my opinion, that's not really anything because we're both trying to both turn right and get on the power. You can see we're both kind of squirming around. There he has a slide. There I have a slide. We just kind of meet in the middle. I don't think that's anything. I try to go on the outside here, but I know it's a not... The grip is less here on the wetter line. So I decide about this point here to back out of it nice and early. Go for the switchback instead. So there we go. Just try and straighten the car the best I can on the drier line, which gives me a good exit. There we go. And I'm right on him. At this point, I don't think anyone could deny that this move is on. I know some of you disagreed with me on the Vince incident, but from previous race. But here, it's absolutely on sender. I'm actually surprised Crim didn't defend this harder, honestly. I'm very surprised Crim didn't defend this harder. I think he's just trying to keep the drier line there and just put me on the wetter line. But I just think leaving the inside wide open. If I braked a little bit earlier, this would have been moved done. But ultimately, what happened is, and once again, I called it correctly live at the time, I brake a little bit too late. Now, this is an overtake that, in my opinion, those that were against my Vince send in Silverstone, they should like this. Because this is basically the exact opposite of the Vince incident, right? The Vince incident, I braked just late enough to get alongside, and he didn't give any room. This, I've braked unintentionally, really late, and I actually end up ahead, according to my proximity arrows, before the apex. But this is basically the polar opposite of the Vince move. And this, in my opinion, is what you guys prefer. I don't like it. All right? So there we go. Brake super, super late. Proximity arrow disappears there just before the apex. So on a technicality, this is move done. I'm ahead. I no longer need to give him room. It's move done. But that's a technicality. I said at the time, oops, I braked too late here. And my intention was to give this position back at this point because I in my opinion, this was too much. I went too deep. I braked too late. I was never going to be able to give him room. If he braked nearly as late as me, he would have been with still a red proximity out, and I'd have had no way to give him any room. He was going in the gravel if he braked a little bit later through no fault of his own. 0% fault, 100% on me. So because of that, I didn't like it. My intention was to give it back. Now, this is where we get into the segment where I analyze other people's actions, which people often take as me absolving myself of fault. That is not what I'm doing. I've just admitted that this was too much in my opinion and that I was going to give the position back. You cannot admit fault more than intending to give the position back, all right? Draw a line under that. I've admitted fault, all right? Before the never admit fault crowd come in. Now let's look at Crim's POV. He does look behind. He knows I'm right there with a good exit. Yeah, he looks behind plenty. Yeah, he just doesn't go fully defensive, which obviously he's entitled to defend exactly how he wants to. Red Proximity Terror from this point. And there you can see I'm going deep. Now, again, doesn't change my actions, but in my opinion, Crim is not smart here. At this point, I've hit the brakes. I'm going deep. There's nothing more I can do. I've made a mistake. I've not made a mistake. Whatever you think about it, whatever Crim thinks about it, I cannot change my actions at this point. My car can't disappear. I can't get a car stopped any better. I can't go right anymore. There is nothing I can do, right? At this point. I'll play it through at full speed. Watch my car moving. As he's turning across me, my car's kind of straightening. It's the weird collision physics in this game. There. So again, regardless of my fault, which I've already admitted, Crim is not smart here because at this point, by going full lock and dragging on me, he's making the situation worse. Does that make it his fault? No, it doesn't. But it does mean he's making the situation worse. What I would have done in this situation is braked a little bit more and gone for the switchback because I was going so deep. He probably would have got the switchback, honestly. Worst case scenario, he'd have been side by side move for the next corner. He would then have been on the inside for the final corner and probably would have stayed ahead. That's what I would have done. He's obviously decided to take different action, but his actions ultimately have made it worse at this point because he's dragged us even wider. But ultimately, even if he doesn't drag on me, there wasn't going to be a car set for him around the outside. So I've still gone too deep. Anyway, at this point though, and this is the reason that I didn't give the position back, and I was, again, absolutely right at the time. My suspicions were correct, and I even said at the time, if I'm wrong, then my bad. I will have to make up for it in the future. But in my opinion, he's accelerated into me through the gravel. He then decides to accelerate. The second he gets to the gravel, he can see what's happening. He chooses to accelerate. Half throttle there. Lifts a little bit. More half throttle, half throttle, half throttle, half throttle, half throttle. 3/4 throttle. This is only ending one way. Unfortunately for Crim, I think there was a little bit of a lost head in the middle of all this. Frustration at me sending it too hard on him. Rightly so. I get it. But two wrongs don't make a right. And then ultimately has the slide and has the spin, which was only going to go one way. It was only going to go one way. So ultimately, Crim caused his own spin. It obviously wouldn't have been a spin if he acted differently, which is why I decided, look, if he's going to get frustrated and accelerate into me through the gravel, he's had his revenge, and that's it. So I just opted not to give the position back from that point onwards. So yeah, there you go, chat. There you go. That's definitely a controversial one. I completely accept that. But as I said, doesn't change the fact. I braked too late. I did it wrong. I was planning to give the position back. I just opted against it when I saw Crim's actions. Simple as that. He should stop in the gravel. I mean, he should try and avoid rejoining at a 45-degree angle to the racing line is what he should try and do. It was an aggressive rejoin, but not revenge. I'm just trying to get back on the track ASAP after being wronged. Yeah. Like I said, it's clearly not like a massive head loss where he's like, oh, I want to kill him. Like, it's not that bad. If he cuts the track, he risks getting penalty, and also none of us know how to optimally rejoin these conditions. Yeah, true. I think one thing we can agree on, though, optimal rejoin is not accelerate through the gravel at a 45-degree angle to the racing line. That is going to go badly. In my opinion, he's done wrong by accelerating through the gravel into the side of me, but I know you guys disagree, and that's absolutely fine. But it doesn't change the fact that it was still me that drifted into him. All right, let's get on with it, guys. Let's move on. So the only other thing to review, really, is Vince after that. He actually defends really well here. There, I thought he was going to go deep and doesn't. He gets it stopped really nicely, hits his apex. Really nicely done. I said that at the time as well. Unfortunately for him, though, does he get on the grass? I think he gets on the grass. Yeah, I think he does. Has a huge slide. And ultimately come through. And this is a good example of what I was saying before on the slide with Crim. The weird-ass physics in this game are not like a sim where if a car spins or slides, they go that way. They go the way of the momentum. In this game, if you slide like that, rather than going that way like you should, you kind of come that way. And the fact that Vince's car there snaps right again, very similar. Not nearly as extreme in the Crim incident, obviously, but very similar there. Big slide. I'm thinking, okay, no worries. I now look like I'm clear. Suddenly, there, his car just grips and goes right, really suddenly, which just isn't realistic physics. But I'm just trying to judge the physics best I can. A little bit of contact there, but I don't think anyone's complaining about that. It just is what it is. And yeah, I get P3. Very unfortunate for Vince. Before we look at it, that's one more thing I want to adjust. There's so many people saying, oh, race ban. That's obviously just raging fans. That's absolutely fine. Just for future reference, the penalty system in Creator Series is a warning system. So your first incident, you get a warning. Second incident, you get a quali ban. Third incident, you get a race ban. That's how it works. It resets every season. I'm on 0 warnings so far this season. If Crim decides to report it, which wouldn't surprise me, they may judge that I get a warning, and that'll be it. There is no more to be said on that. It won't be a race ban. They can give an instant race ban, but it would need to be something purposeful. I think ultimately, you look at my move on Crim. It's not like I've done anything outrageously bad. Like, I've just braked a little bit too late. We see it all the time in Creator Series, all the time. However, we know Creator Series doesn't necessarily apply the rules fairly across the grid, so it wouldn't surprise me if I get a warning for it. I think, yeah, we tend to hold different people to different standards, so we'll see. But worst case scenario, it's a ban. It's that. Not a ban, sorry, a warning. Okay, let's have a look at Adam's move. Opportunistic. Very opportunistic. I'd say quite generous by grid jokes. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's gifted by grid jokes. But I don't think that move would work against some other drivers. Nice judge, though. Very, very nicely done there, look. This is the corner that I went deep and hit Safso. So he judges that well and leaves a good back room. So nice move. Right. Oh, yeah, I do want to see this, actually. This was a massive slide that allowed me to overtake him. Yeah.
Great. Ryan's got zero awareness.
Honestly, completely fair conclusion. Completely fair conclusion. Zero awareness for Ryan. For Ryan. Vince takes the lead, tidy overtake. Hello. Very nice. Very nice. Beautiful. Zero contact. Pabin and Razzie overtakes on the same corner. On the outside. Oh, I see. It's in sync.
Hello,
oh, beautiful.
Shut up!
Not a good exit.
Do you have any comments on your
That's not going to fight it too hard, though. Oh, my God. It's literally the same. That is incredible. What a clip that is. It's lovely overtake on Tuki. Let's see this. On the outside this time, though. Very nice in. Bit of contact again, but all good.
Big move.
Left enough room. Got sideways after contact with Adam. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I came for.
I meant your stream.
Pretty good.
How far away?
Oh, Scotty! Leave the.
If you want to talk about a driver that's never their fault, this guy is never at fault. Afterwards, sometimes he'll change his mind, but it's always the other drivers. Anyway, let's look whose fault it actually is.
How far away?
Oh, Scotty!
I don't know about this. In my opinion, at this point here, you've got dirty air, Scotty has not. The odds of this going well are very slim. I reckon, I don't think we've got Scotty's clip, but I reckon Scotty loses the proximity arrow there, which I think is mitigating enough that I don't think he does anything wrong. I'm calling that pretty much 50-50. My proximity arrow is flickering between red and white. Okay, fair. Yeah, you probably should have left a little bit more room there, but whatever. Now, this is the main controversial incident, right? So, team games are banned in Creator Series, right? You are not allowed, and it's absolutely clear in the rules because we had it before and nobody liked it. You are not allowed to get involved in the fight for the lead as a lapped car. Absolutely 100% ironclad rule. Simple as that. Simple as that, right? So Ricky there lets Lolly go nice and easily and then stays there. I think at this point you can kind of go, you know, he doesn't have to jump out his way immediately, but you can see he's maybe, you know, not being so kind to Razan as he was to Lolly.
Are you seriously going to block me?
And Razan's already suspecting it. And here you go, yeah, he's doing this on purpose. But that's not great. Bear in mind how close this is in the final 5 laps of the race.
Is this guy serious? Is this genuinely what they're doing?
And now Razan's reaction is completely fair. At this point, the previous 2 corners, you can kind of go, bit cheeky, not an out-and-out rule break. This now, 100% rule break.
This is so scummy, man. Move. Move, man.
And he's just been held up.
Scumbag tactics.
Now, he's already been given a race ban for this, as Ricky. Now, I said earlier there's a warning system. This was such an obvious open and shut case of team play that we don't want to see. He's been given an instant race ban for it, which honestly I'm not against. It's not like, you know, it's not a purposeful takeout. It's not outrageously bad, but...
Oh, piss off, man.
And then obviously lets him through there, and then...
Great way to ruin content, dudes.
And Razin highlights it perfectly there. That's why it's banned, because at the end of the day, people are tuning in to see a last lap battle or you know, a fight to the end for the race win. If this gets negatively affected by someone doing something for results, which we know is very anti-Creator Series. Creator Series is all about content. It's about entertainment. It's about making good races. It's not about results. And I've heard it before. When I've cared about results, I don't enjoy Creator Series when I care about results. This can only be done for results. It is anti-content in a content league. Look, it's not that deep. He's just decided to do it to try and help his teammate win for the Constructors' Championship point. You know, that's it. It's not like he's completely taken Razin out. Do you know what I mean? It's not that deep. And I got to be honest, I do think a race ban is maybe a touch harsh. Maybe harsh. I think an instant quali ban might have been fairer. Or, as he's done this for Constructors' Championship reasons, docking some Constructors' Championship points. Ricky's owned up to it. He said, yeah, like, I just was trying to help my teammate. Like, my bad, guys. I'll take whatever punishment comes my way. He's been very matter of fact. So it is what it is. We've seen it before. It is disappointing that it's happening now that it is a hard and fast rule. But yeah, keep in mind, we all let him unlap himself. Yeah, true. Yeah, so we all let him through on the safety car, and then he just does that. It's a shame. It's a real shame. It's giving me content. Yeah, true. It's not anti-clipbook content. Very good point. There you go. There's the standings. So I'm actually up to 5th place, which I think is probably my target this season. Obviously, Lolly took a pretty commanding lead there. Razan's gone up to P2. I think he was P4 before this. So Razin, in my mind, is still in championship contention. I've said it all along. He needs to cut out the bottles, but he's still in it. I think Crim... That's the other thing about our incident, is that he didn't need to accelerate into the side of me. Whichever fault you put it, Crim wasn't blameless, even if you think it was 90% on me. I think he finished, where did he finish then? P7, P8? He'd have more points now. 29 points back with 4 races to go. Look, I'm not ruling them out, because it's Crim, and we know how good he can be, but a DNF in round 1, only 10 points in Canada, only 10 points again in Zandvoort. And then Ben, obviously, DNF. So it's interesting, 2 championship contenders I had incidents with. Ben with his DNF, I think he's going to struggle for the championship from there. He doesn't win enough races, I think, to come back from there, unless attendance comes into it. But I think ultimately, I don't think Ben will be able to win the championship from there. Anyway, that's enough for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed the Clipbook today. Obviously, lots to review. As always, keep it civil in the comments. You know, don't abuse anybody, me or anybody else. You're more than welcome to debate. You're more than welcome to have your opinion. Just make sure you're keeping it civil. Make sure you're being respectful at all times. We don't like to see people getting hate in the comments, people getting overly negative. Remember, if you're not enjoying it, if you're genuinely that angry at Creator Series, then maybe it's not for you. We're all doing it for fun. Every single creator, every single viewer, we're all here for fun. It's basically an exhibition match. There's nothing here there's no prize money, there's no nothing. We're all doing it just for funsies. We all want to win. We all want to race largely fairly. Mistakes happen. It's Creator Series, guys. It's carnage. That's why we love it. That's why the Clipbook exists. Anyway, guys, catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.